All right. So see, the first one that we have is hymns. Take a look. I think I've ever charted out hymns before. Nope, I haven't. All right, so um all right, for the sake of time, I'm gonna do just the daily charts. Normally I do the daily and weekly, but I see I have quite a few to go over. So just to save time, I'm just gonna go through the dailies for them. And if we need to look at the weeklies, we can. But looking at hymns, to start off, RSI level is really high. It's at 83.44. It's in that overbought range, right? It looks like from the from the chart, we can see that they had a few green days. So they had some type of good news that happened this week that caused them to catapult up to 60. And with that high RSI, I would say I would be waiting for a cool down on this stock just because that RSI level is really high and I know it needs to cool down. The stochastic is also high. It's sitting at 93. It is pointing up. It could make it back to 100, but at that point, how much juice will we have to make with this stock? I'm thinking we'll probably get back to this very top at 65 at the most, and if it breaks above 65, we could see 70. But it looks like at most we'll probably be seeing like 65 as our price going upwards. So we can draw some resistance because this is all-time high levels for this stock. So we can just say, excuse me, we can have our resistance at 65. And again, because it's all-time highs, I like to, after that, anytime I'm breaking past my current resistance level, I'm treating it in $5 to $10 increments, depending on the price of the stock. If the stock's in like $100, $300, I'm probably using $10 increments. Because this is under $10, or excuse me, because this is under $100, I'm treating it in $5 increments. So I'm going to say the next place that this could get to if it breaks above our resistance at 65 would be 70. But again, RSI level is pretty high, sitting at 83. Stochastic is high. I don't see it going too much higher than 65 or 70. So that's why I have my resistance at 65. Now, for support, because we had a nice huge candlestick here, we can say we can draw support here at 59.60, but that's already, the price is already there. We can already say that it's testing that support line. So the next place that I would draw support is going to be the next place that we have some activity that we can justify, right? So we can say that the next level of support that we'll have is going to be in this area. We can draw it down and say about $43 will be the next level of support. And when we start hitting all-time high levels, that's when it's good to start to use the VRVP. So let's just check out VRVP and see what's happening. Yep. So you can see the next place that we have a nice red gap will be right here where we drew the line at about 43. So they have it at the top of that is like 44. So this is the next level of support. We can see here, if this was to break beneath this support at 59, it's going to probably break past all of these levels and try to get back to that 43 range to recorrect itself. So for me personally, if you're looking to get into a trade here, I will be waiting for a pullback. I'll be waiting for a pullback, and then once that pullback happens, we can reanalyze the stock, the chart, and see if this is to see if we can establish the bottom. But right now, this is look like this play has already ran its course, and yeah, I would be waiting for a pullback to happen. And if you're in this stock, if you're in this play, I would be looking to shave profits at least. You don't have to get out completely, but you can definitely shave profits at this point because this is looking like this could be the top for this stock at this moment. Any questions on HIMS for this week? So this week, again, expect a pullback. Worst case scenario, we'll be seeing it get to the $43 range. Best case, we might see it hit about 50 and try to start to create a new support line. But I'm thinking if it breaks beneath that support, we'll probably be seeing that get to that 43. All right. So the next one, and there's you got a message in the chat too about the trading view. DoorDash is the next one. Let's check out DoorDash. All right. DoorDash has been killing it. You can see DoorDash RSI level is relatively high, 78%, 78 RSI level. Stochastic is also high, almost in that overbought region of 100. So we know that when it hits 100, while it can stay there for a little while, like we see here, ultimately it wants to start to pull back down and try to at least get back to that 50 range. Looking at this stock, again, this is all-time high levels for it because it's $200, just about all-time high levels. Has a little bit more to go for all-time highs. So we're not quite in all-time highs, so we can actually draw some resistance. And we can say we can draw resistance here at about $21, $200.21 could be our level of resistance. So if this stock was to continue to trend up, we're going to more than likely see it come and try to test this this $221 range. Now, if it starts to pull back, let me clear out the VRDP for it. If it was to pull back, I suspect that this will pull back and try to test the 20-day moving average. And that 20-day moving average currently is at 190. It may be a little bit higher when it starts to try to test it, but for right now, we can say 190 is, well, I would say when it's probably going to test it, it's going to be in this area at about 198. So we could be suspecting to see a pullback happen, and that pullback can get us to 198. And then at that point, I'm thinking we'll be seeing a test on the 20-day moving average, which could potentially show us a rejection on the price. If you notice, the moving averages for this stock is in chronological order. So we have the 20-day up top, followed by the 50, followed by the 100, and followed by the 200. So when the moving averages are set up like this, in this order of 20, 50, 100, 200, this is letting us know that this 20-day moving average is a really strong line. So when the stock price tends to test this area, we normally see a rejection happen. So when it gets close to this 20-day or touches this 20-day, we typically see a rejection to the upside. So this could be what's happening here, where stock price can pull back, probably get to about 198. And at that point, the 20-day moving average will be at 198. And then we'll be seeing a rejection from there that'll bring us up to this $221 range, more than likely. That's what we could be seeing. Once it starts to pull back, just reanalyze your indicators to make sure and justify that, okay, we could see a rejection happen on this 20-day if it tests it, and that can cause us to catapult. Just don't get in just because we see the price get to 120, 198, and it's testing that 20-day. Just reevaluate all of the indicators and look for the pattern. If it does look like it's rejecting, then I will feel comfortable saying, hey, get in that trade, and you can trade it up to that $221 range. Yeah. Any questions on DoorDash? All right, perfect. Okay. This one is YMN. Trying to boost up. Okay. This looks like an inverse something. Okay. All right, so let's draw out some support and resistance. This current price is $40.83. We can say it's currently testing resistance. If it was to break above this level, we can go back. We'll have to go back because this is a lot of choppiness happening here from fluctuation. But if we was to pull back and try to establish our next resistance area, I would draw my next resistance area right up about this area, which will be $46.50. So we can say current resistance is about $41. If it breaks above $41, we could be seeing this get to this $46.50 range. Now, RSI level is pretty high, is at 68. That's basically being overbought. Stochastic is at 100, so we know that that's overbought as well. So that's indicating to me that, hey, this does need to pull back. Now, if it pulls back and starts to cool down, I can see it first coming. We can say we can draw resistance here at about 37, 36, $37 would be the first place I'll say that it'll come and test. And if it breaks beneath that, then I'm looking at wherever this 20-week moving average is going to be. At that point, this 20-week moving average will probably be somewhere in this area of $33. So if this stock was to pull back, it's first going to test 37. If it breaks beneath that, we could be seeing this get to about 33, 34. And if it breaks above our 41 resistance area we have here, then it's going to be going to about 45 before it starts to try to recorrect itself and pull back. But ultimately, looking at the RSI and the stochastic, those are high for me, so I wouldn't feel comfortable just getting into a bullish trade or a swing trade. I would be looking for this to pull back first and find a better entry point. But if you're looking for a quick day trade, if it breaks above this 41 range, look at those smaller time frames like the hour chart, the 30-minute chart, 4-hour chart, and try to use that to find a day trade that you can play. Any questions? Perfect. Okay. Next one. Tempest AF. All right. So all these styles look like they've been running up so thus far. So this one, RSI level is high as well. Stochastic is high. Resistance, we can draw resistance here. We'll say is at about 90. If it breaks above 90, this is all-time highs level. This company IPO'd in 2024 July. The next place you get to is about $95 to $100. Now, if it was to reject this level, I'm looking at it to try to come back. Can draw a little bit lower to say at about $77 to $80 range. So we'll draw it up a little bit higher, say 80. I'm looking to see if it pulls back, what happens when it pulls back to 80. If it can reject this 80 support line, then we can start to see it try to get back to that 90. If it was to break beneath this 80 line, then I see this stock going all the way back down to about 70. And looking at how this is setting up, again, looking at where that RSI level and that stochastic is at, this does need to pull back. It is showing me that this needs to cool down. So I'm thinking that we'll probably see a cool down back to that 70 range. And then from that point, we could see a correction to where it starts to point back upwards. But at the moment, it's looking like this may be the highest we will see at the moment. It's about to pull back, and then it's just about establishing and finding that bottom, finding the floor, and using that floor to catapult us back up for our swing trade. Now, this company does have earnings coming up, I can see, and they have earnings a week from now. So on the 24th, they have earnings after hours. So just be on the lookout for that. When you're getting into that earnings report, at that point, if you're still in the trade, it's a 50-50 on if it can go up or down, right? It just depends on what they say in that earnings report. They have good news that can cause it to go up. If they say something bad, it can cause it to go down. So just be a little bit careful trading it at that point. Yep. Any questions on Tempest? All right, perfect. What time is it? Okay, doing good. One time. All right. Exxon. Okay, so we looked at this previously. Look, it tested our support we drew. I'm not sure when we looked at this stock, but it tested support at 683, and it looks like it's trying to break above it. It's testing it. It looks like from the stochastic RSI level standpoint that this point down was hitting this 50. If it continues to go down, we could be seeing this start to try to pull back and try to come back to this 20-day moving average. Now it is in that chronological order on our moving averages to where we have the 20, 50, 100, 200 in order pointing upwards. So again, when we see it like that, a lot of times we have rejections happen. Because this crossover just happened, I wouldn't say that it's for sure going to reject. I would be waiting to see what happens. Again, I would be waiting for this one because if this was to break beneath these moving averages, we could be seeing this get back to that $589 range. So I would just be a little bit careful, especially where that stochastic is pointing at. And then you pair that in to the fact that we have a pending MACD crossover to the downside. We could not be seeing that rejection happen on that 20 day, even though we're in chronological order. We could be seeing this pull back and pull back to at least this 594 range. And if that was to happen, then this will be looking potentially like a double bottom pattern or double top pattern forming, excuse me. Where is my path? And I'm just drawing the macro. So we could be seeing this stock was going up, pulled back down, came up, it's testing this area. If it breaks beneath these two moving averages and continues to pull back, again, I'm thinking it's going to for sure come and test this. If it breaks beneath these two moving averages, it's going to come and test this this 590 range that we have drawn here for support. And if it breaks beneath that, then we'll be seeing this probably get back to 506. But at the current moment, if this was to break beneath these two moving averages, we're definitely going to be seeing this get to that 590 range. And again, at that point, if it gets to that 590 range, we'll have a crossover to the downside on that MACD. Then that could have enough momentum to even drag us even further down back to this support we have at 506. So for this one, I would just be waiting to get in. I wouldn't get in right now just because of where it's at. It's in its highest levels. So I would definitely be waiting. Now, if it breaks above this moving average, again, we scroll down, we can see this is all-time high levels. So we can treat this as, because it's so high up in price, $10 increments. So if it breaks above 690, we could be seeing this get to 700. But just looking at this daily chart and looking how it's setting up, I'm thinking we're going to be seeing this pullback. Let's just check the hour to see. Check the hour. Yeah, the hour chart is pretty high on the RS stochastic as well. 4 hours should be 4 hours telling us a little bit different. So definitely just watch this one. I'm thinking still it's going to try to pull back to that 645 range that we have now on the daily. Or excuse me, I said 645. I'm thinking it's going to pull back down to this 595 range. Any questions on Exxon Enterprise? Check the chat. Let's see what's right. Move a little faster. All right. Halo, looking at, let's draw some support and resistance. So RSI level is at 65, point downwards. Stochastic is in that 50 range, the neutral zone, and it does look like it looks like it's trying to continue to go up and get back to that overbought region. Again, because it's testing 50, we could be seeing a rejection on this point and a pullback down. I would be a little bit careful because we do have a crossover to the downside on the MACD, but it looks like it's trying to reject that cross down and start to point back upwards. So if this stock, because it's testing this 20 day moving average, again, we could be seeing this start to continue to trend upwards. Now, if it was to pull back, it's going to this 20-day moving average, which is at about $56.72. And if it breaks beneath that, the next place is going to come and test. You can say we have some nice support here at about 54. So if it breaks beneath this 56 range, we could be seeing this get back to 54. And after that, if it breaks beneath that 54, we'll be seeing it try to test this cluster of moving averages we have here. Now, if it's going to trend upwards and reject this support, we'll be seeing this get to, for resistance, about $60. So that's why I'll draw my resistance at the current moment. So currently it's trading in between the 60 resistance and a 56 resistance. So because we're in the middle, again, we could be seeing this get back to 60 and then start to try to reject it. So I would just be waiting to see what happens once it tests one of these moving averages. If it pulls back and tests the 56, can we have a rejection there? If we have a rejection, feel comfortable getting into a trade. And the trade, I would play it up to about 60. Now, if it gets to 60 and it's rejecting 60, I will wait until it pulls back down to 56 before I try to get into any trade. And if it's going up and it breaks above 60 and the price can hold above 60, the next place I can see it going, we can draw it right here. We can say it'll be about $62, $63 is the next place that it can potentially get to if it was to break above 60. So, and again, at this moment, we are in the middle of two moving averages, two resistance and a support. So I would just be waiting to see which direction is going to get me. Currently looking at the stochastic, it's trying to point up, it's trying to get back to that 100. So we could be seeing it get to that 60 range. And then at that point, the RSI level is high. I don't see it going too much higher than 62, but at 60, I'm thinking we'll probably have a rejection if it hits there to where it starts to pull back down. If it doesn't and it breaks past 60, $62, $63 is going to be where it's going to go. Any questions? Okay. All right. Look at that. So we talked about this stock. It made, that's perfect. It made the inverted head and shoulders pattern. We can see that it looks like it made the inverted head and shoulders pattern that we talked about, which is nice. Clear that. Okay. So currently, so it created that inverted head and shoulders. It completed that pattern. It got back. It got relatively close. It didn't touch all the way back to the top price, but got relatively close to the resistance line. And then it rejected it, and now it's starting to trend back up to there. Looking at where the stochastic is at, I'm thinking this is gonna try to cool down again. We're gonna probably see another pullback happen. We may see it come and try to test that 204 range first, and then we'll see that pullback happen. But just looking at it right now, I wouldn't be trying to open up a position here at this point because again, stochastic RSI is pretty high for my liking. That's not a good spot for me to want to get in. And then we also have the RSI level pointing downwards. So we could be seeing this pullback. Now, if it was to pull back, where it's going to go? Current price is 200. We established 204 is our resistance. We have support at 184. But before it gets to that support level, because there's been we've had a few things happen, the next place is going to come and test. It's going to be these moving averages. We have a cluster of moving averages, and anytime you see the price coming close to a moving average, treat it as either support or resistance. So if the stock price is above those moving averages, we're going to treat it as support. So in this case, stock price is above these moving averages. So we're going to treat these moving averages as if it's support. And that support level that we can see it get to is at 189. And then when it gets to 189, I want to see what happens. Again, because it's a cluster of moving averages, that's going to be a really strong line to break. Can we see a rejection happen there? If we see that rejection, then I will feel comfortable saying, okay, let's look at the stochastic. Where is the stochastic at? It's pointing upwards. It has room to go up. Does the RSI level look like a good place to go ahead and get in? If it does, you can go ahead and get in and ride it back up to this 203 range. And if it breaks beneath these moving averages, we'll be probably seeing it get back to 200, which is this 200-day moving average, excuse me, not $200, but we'll be seeing it get to this 200-day moving average wherever it's at. But at the moment, again, I'm just waiting for it to either establish its bottom or its top. So the top being 204, if we have a rejection, we'll be seeing it get to 198 or 189. And then again, if it gets to 189, I'm waiting for it to reject. And if we have a rejection, we'll be seeing it get back to that 204 range. That's what I see there. Do I have any questions? I'll check the chat. Okay, perfect. Let's check time. Okay, still good. Okay, let's check a couple more. Uber. All right, Uber. So talk about Uber potentially making either a bearish flag or double bottom probably. Looks like it made a double bottom. Didn't necessarily get all the way back down here, but made a double bottom, trended upwards. So now we're trading above our resistance level we had at about 726. So with that double bottom, we say they can potentially make it back to $86. Is that true? Can it still make it to $86? Before it does that, we're going to want to see if it can break above this level of 81. So if it can break above 81.50, then we'll definitely be seeing it try to get to 86. Now, looking at where the stochastic is at, is almost at 100. I don't see it breaking above this $81 range that we have, $82 range we have here. I see it rejecting this level and pulling back. And with that pullback, I suspect that the first level is going to come and test. It's going to be this previous support line we had drawn or resistance level that we had drawn, which is $76.48. So that's going to be that first place that it's going to go and test. And if it breaks beneath that, instead of it coming all the way back down to the 68 range, again, we have a cluster of moving averages. And with that cluster of moving averages, the moving averages won't be at 71.22. They'll probably be somewhere closer to about $72.50, $73 will be where those moving averages will be at. So that's where I'm going to put my support at. I'm going to put my next level of support here at about $72.50, $73. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see if this pulls back. If it pulls back and it tests 76 and it rejects that level, then we could try to swing this up to about 81. But if it breaks beneath it, I would still wait for a better spot. We're still trying to establish the bottom, and I'm thinking that the bottom would be the 72 range. So at 72, I would then look to see, okay, what's happening? Are the indicators lining up? And if they are, then you can go ahead and try to swing this up. Now, I wouldn't go ahead and do a swing trade all the way back up to $81. I would, if it hits this level, I'm going to try to swing it up to 76. And then once it hits 76, I'm going to reevaluate, see what's happening. Does it look like it can continue to go up? And if it can, I'll go ahead and stay in and then ride it up to this 81 range. But if it tests this level, my first target price would be here at about 75 before I try to ride it all the way up to this 81 range on Uber. Any questions? I know I've said a lot. Okay, perfect. All right, a few more. Coinbase. Let's take a look at Coinbase. So Coinbase is currently trading in between two support and resistance levels that we have drawn. So we drew one at 316 for the resistance, and our support, we're saying it's going to be 256, which is also this 100-day moving average that we have. So we can see that price is currently testing two moving averages on resistance. So current price is 274. We have the 20-week or 20-day and 50-day moving averages right above this price at about 285. So before it gets all the way back up to $300, if this was to go up, it's going to come and try to test these moving averages. And because these are moving averages, can it break above these moving averages? If it can break above the moving averages at about 285, so I can say if the price can break above 286, we could be seeing this get back to 316. If it continues to reject this level, then we could start to see this stock decrease even more. The first place is going to go and test is going to be this this 50-day moving average at 256. So if we continue to come down, we'll be seeing this try to get to about 256. And if it breaks beneath that, we'll be seeing this try to get then back to this 200-day moving average, which is at 234. Now, looking at the indicators, RSI level is pointing down at 48. However, we have the stochastic. The stochastic is pointing upwards and is only testing our neutral zone. It's only testing that 50. So we can have the stochastic break above this 50 and continue that upwards momentum. We'll definitely be seeing Coinbase break above these two moving averages and then ultimately trending back up to this 317 range. So that's what I'm seeing again. And we're close to a MACD crossover to the upside. So this, for me, especially when I'm like day trading and stuff, this is how I like to see my setup before I get in. When I see that I have a pending MACD crossover to the upside, and I have my stochastic RSI level in a nice spot to where it has room to the upside, this is when I like to get into my day trades, because I found that when this setup is like this, we start to see those pops, especially in those day trades that you have. You start to see that pop happen to where you will definitely make it to that target zone you have drawn. So looking at this, we could be seeing this. We could be seeing Coinbase try to get back up to that 350 range for sure. For sure. Just this is a nice setup. The only thing we're waiting for is a breakthrough above these moving averages. So a breakthrough at about 286, we could be seeing this get to 360. So that's when I would be getting in, is once the price can close above 286 is when I'll start to get into my trades. And let's see here. Just want to say something else. I lost my train of thought. All right, yeah. That was Coinbase. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I was going to say something else about the. Oh, I wanted to check the VRVP just to see. VRVP, this is a nice node. Worst case scenario, it's going to bounce off of 250. It's going to bounce off of this 50-week moving average. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. Let's check. And then let's. All right, so let's draw some support and resistance lines for this one. All right, so we can have support here. Well, we'll draw resistance first. So current price, $52.62. The next level that it can test, if it goes up, it's going to test the $55.50 range. If it breaks above that, we'll see it try to get to 60 and then 65. Now, if it continues to go down, I want to see what happens. We have a little activity here at about $49.50, $50. So that's the next level that I want to see what happens. If it can break beneath that, then we'll be probably be coming all the way down to this moving average, this 20-day moving average, which would be somewhere at about $45, right? As this is going down, this moving average is going to continue to climb up because the stock price is above them. So it's going to continue to go up, and I want to see what happens when the stock price tests this 45 range. So if this pulls back, what happens once it tests this 20-day moving average? If it tests this and rejects this price, then we could be seeing this stock price go up and continue to go up. Now, looking at the indicators, RSI level is a little high, 64, pointing downwards. Stochastic was going to the overbought region, and then they rejected that 80 range, and now it's pulling back to that neutral zone. So we can break beneath the neutral zone. I would say that we'll probably be seeing this definitely come back down to 45. And that's just because we have room to the downside. And then we also are getting relatively close. There is a little separation on the MACD, but that buying pressure is getting closer and closer to crossing underneath the selling pressure. And we know when we have a blue line crossing underneath the red line, then that's going to be a downtrend happening. And then that downtrend again will be probably getting us to about 45. So for me personally, I would be waiting to see what happens with this stock, especially if you're trying to swing it. Just we got to establish the bottom. We can't say that this is the bottom of the stock. This is probably the top. So I definitely would be waiting for it to pull back. Now, can you get a day trade to the upside? Maybe. You'll just have to look at the lower time frames. But in the meantime, I would definitely be waiting, especially if you're trying to swing trade it. And if you're in this trade, this might be a nice little spot to go ahead and start to shave profits off of it. Any questions? All right, perfect. Try to get a couple more in and then pull off. Did you have plans on going over NVIDIA or AMD? I know you typically sometimes go over those.
Yep.
You were going over those?
Yeah, I'm gonna go over both.
Okay, perfect. So I'll go ahead and check out Rivian and then pass it on to you.
Cool.
All right. Perfect. Rivian. All right. So let's draw some support and resistance. Currently, we can see that this is testing resistance. This is a nice little resistance level for it to have at about $14. If it continues to go up, we can draw a tighter resistance maybe and say we have some more activity here at about $14.50. So if it breaks above 14, we'll be seeing it try to test 14.50. And after that, if it breaks above 14.50, we can draw some more support here at about 15.20. 20, 15, 25, or $15. So this could be, we could have resistance at 50-cent increments. So 14, 14, 50, 15, 15, 50 is how it's looking. Looking at the stochastic RSI, we have a little bit more room to the upside on this to get us to continue to trend upwards. And then the RSI level is at about 56. The one thing I like about this, why it does have a pretty high RSI level, that MACD crossover to the upside happened. So we could be seeing this start to catapult, or not catapult, but we could see this start to increase up to this 14.50 and then this $15 range. And again, you can see this setup, like I mentioned, not the last stock, but I think that was Coinbase we was looking at when we spoke about the nice setup. But you can look, we can see where the R. So we was really close to a MACD crossover to the upside here. We was establishing the bottom, and the RSI level was in a nice little spot. It was at about 50 when it crossed over on the MACD. So I'm just using this. This was the 50 for the stochastic. And if I scroll down, the MACD was just having that crossover. With that catapulted us up. And that's how we got these three nice little ticks. So we could be seeing that happening with the Coinbase as well. That's just what I wanted to mention. But this does have room to the up, a little bit more room on that stochastic to cause us to keep going up. And again, if it does continue to go up, we're going to see it come into 14.50 and then that $15 range. Now, if it rejects, I'm thinking it'll probably pull back down to this level here, which is our 50-day moving average, which is at about $13.50. So that's where we'll probably be seeing this, if it does pull back, get to. But ultimately, I'm thinking this is probably going to be trying to get to 14.50 and then 15. Any questions? All right. So I'm going to pass it out to Ladarius so he can go over his picks for the week. Thank y'all.
Perfect. All right. I appreciate that, Mark. All right. So what we can do is start with AMD, NVIDIA. We'll go over PLTR and then we can look at XOM. So I have about 2 SoFi and MSTR to add to that list, but that's pretty much, you all kind of read my mind today. So let me share my screen again. Cool. All right. So let's walk through these. All right. This is what XOM. Let's start with AMD. All right. Oh, price is already, I'm sorry, the chart is already adjusted. All right. So looking at AMD, we have a 43 or 44 RSI on the daily. If we look at this, and I can hide my lines for a second. Let me actually I hide them right here. All right. So if we look at AMD, I mean, it's been in a downspin, right? And like I said earlier, when you have these moving averages in chronological order, the only one that you need to pay attention to is the 20, especially if they're going to the upside. Well, this is the opposite case. We have them in chronological order, but it's from the greatest to the least, right? This is 200, 100, 50, 20. So guess what's happening? That 20, like I said, your driving line is taking AMD down. AMD pops up, flirts with the 20, drops. Comes up, get close to the 20, drop, break the 20, drop, 20, drop, 20, drop, 20, right? I mean, you see the pattern here. So what we would actually need for AMD to break out of this downspin is to actually break above the 20 and the 50. So right now we're at 113. What we would need to start to get some confirmation of a break to the upside is to land between 125 and 130 to the upside. If not, we're going to continue on to the downside. That 20 is just continuing to push and push and push the stock lower. I honestly think that AMD may hit $100 before it bounces, but it's not looking good. They just had earnings. It went up a little bit on earnings. Oh no, on the day of earnings, it went up. It tested that 20, and then of course, after earnings, it rejected back down to 107. Some buy-ins started to come in and to come back in. It took it up to 113, 114, and now we're back at the 20. So what do we think is going to happen here? If I'm a betting man, it's probably that the 20 is going to knock it down again. We need some kind of news, or we need something. Even sector-wide news haven't been saving NVIDIA. I'm sorry, AMD, because NVIDIA has been running. like, you know, it has been running for the last few years. AMD has just been tanking. It's like I always say this: the sector goes up, Nvidia goes up, this stays the same. Nvidia goes down, the sector goes down, AMD goes down. It's kind of weird, but yeah, it's not looking too good right now. We have a nice RSI, but those moving averages are keeping the pressure on top of the stock. Also, the MACD, we just had a MACD crossover to the upside, but we did have one right here before, and then we flipped to the downside immediately. So I don't know how long we're going to stay in this. Again, for us to break out of this downtrend, we need to at least get into the 125, 130 range. And the stochastics is at 59. So let's walk it down to the 4-hour and see what do we have. If we look at the 4-hour, again, RSI is pretty decent. On the 4-hour, we're a little bit above our 20. The MACD crossed over to the upside, but that stochastics is at 97. So again, when the stochastics is high, that means that the momentum for that time frame is about to be maxed out. And like I said, once you get to 195 area, it starts to pull back, right? We hit the top, pull back, top, pull back, et cetera, et cetera. So right now we're hitting the top. So at some point this week, AMD may be moving lower because of this touch on the stochastic. So again, everything is pointing kind of down for AMD right now. And for me to hop in on my end, for me to actually take a trade to the upside, I need to see some promise that it is out of the downtrend. But it's been in this downtrend since October. It's been in this downtrend. So a few pop-ups, you know, if you want to be contrarian and play the pop to the upside, but as soon as you play the pop to the upside, you probably need to get out because it's probably going to tank down. So and then I mean you can see more of the downtrend. It's actually been on a downtrend since February. It's even worse. March. So it's been March. It's actually been in the downtrend since March. So it's almost been in the downtrend for an entire year, which is crazy. I haven't even thought about that, but yeah, it's not looking too good for AMD as far as moves to the upside. Now, eventually, is it going to start to make some moves? I'm pretty sure it should at some point. Once it gets so low, I think that the value investors will step in and start to buy it up. But right now, they're just letting it bleed, and it's been bleeding for an entire year. So be careful with this one. Any questions about AMD? All righty, NVIDIA. All right, so NVIDIA has been bouncing within the same trading range for since June. So for quite a few months here, maybe 2 or 3 quarters, it has been bouncing in this range. A lot of people have promise and hope for NVIDIA to print the way it has been in the past years. And I told the people in the Discord, my members in the Discord, that hey, NVIDIA is not doing another NVIDIA this year. I think it's done. And what I mean by that is that NVIDIA over the last 2 or 3 years have been, you know, upwards of 100% as far as flipping. NVIDIA is not flipping 100% this year. I think that is at the top of where it's going to be. Again, NVIDIA could end the year 160, 170 potentially, but right now I don't see the valuation is so high that it's kind of not making sense on where it can go. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, NVIDIA is cheap right now. I mean, if you're looking at future Blackwell, which is their future chip sales, cool, but the future is not now. And we can't guarantee. I mean, we're in an unstable government environment right now, and not even just in the U.S., just globally. We're going in wars and all this other stuff. So all of that stuff with tariffs, wars, and things like that, if we don't get that smoothed out, it's going to be interesting to see how NVIDIA navigates around who to sell to, how to sell, because they were kind of mad that they couldn't sell to China with Biden, and then with Trump, he's trying to take the production out of Taiwan and trying to bring it back to the U.S. So NVIDIA, they're not big fans of the tariffs. So it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate around this, being the fact that they've built up to where they are right now by selling these chips. But they haven't been able to break out of this range. And every time they hit this 149 to 150 range, they reject. They reject it here, 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 and here. So if they make a trip back up to 149, there's a high chance that there may be another rejection. So just be careful. And I mean, the triple up to 149 is a $10 pop. So if you're in it for a little, swing trade to resistance, you could do that. But again, 149 seems to be the point, or 149, 150 seems to be the point to where it keeps rejected. And then if we look at all the other stuff, we check the MACD, it's crossed over to the upside. We look at that stochastics, guess what? It is in the 90s as well. So watch for that 140. 140, we may get a cool down because this stochastics is hot. And again, stochastics is how much fuel, how much rocket fuel we have to make it to the next spot, to the next resistance, to the next level of above. And so if we're already at 92 and we're at 138, there is a pullback or a red candle coming someday this week, right? Because we need this to cool off. The first cool off point would be 80. If we cool this off down to 80 and then start to move back up, I think that we can get a nice go at that 150 resistance. But if we walk into 150 with a 100 stochastics reading, it's probably going to sell off again. And let me see. Ross, you're saying the AMD will bottom at 85. Yep, I had 80. I have the next level being 100, and then after 185 was like the no-go zone, the worst of the worst. So I'm with you there, Ross, in the chat. But yeah, so let's look at the 4 hour. We're looking at the 4 hour, and again, look at that stochastics. It's at 100. You can see the last time it went to 100. This is the type of move that I would like to see on the day. It hits 100, pulls back to 80 for a retest, and then it comes back up and go higher. But now we're already at 100 on the 4 hour. It looks like we may be maxed out. We have a decently high RSI at 64. And let's see. Yeah, we're right up against this 140. I can hide these for a second. We're right up against this 140 resistance. So if we do get a break here, again, like I said, on the day, what I would like to see is just a slight pullback and then a move back forward to see if we can go for another test at 150. Any questions on the video? All righty, PLTR. Okay.
So I have one question.
Oh.
So if Nvidia hits 150, do you think that's sort of a good time to kind of just pop off because you're kind of bearish on it overall?
If it hits 150, are you saying like to exit it completely, or
like if it's a long position, exit like half, a quarter?
Long meaning like you're holding for like the next 5-10 years. If you're holding that long, I don't know if hopping out at 150. Again, this could go like once the valuation is justified and it sets in, this could be moving higher, but right now it just doesn't make sense for the revenue that it's making. But yeah, if it goes to 150, you could trim, because I mean that's a spot to where, I mean, we've rejected plenty of times at 150. And the worst thing would be for it to reject at 150 7 times, it get up there the eighth time, and you're like, I'll wait. And then it rejects again on you.
Do you think trimming by 10%, 15% if it's a long?
Yeah, if I'm long, I would just give it a little haircut. 15 to 25% is what I would be looking at.
Okay.
If I'm looking at pushing it from 138 to 150. Especially if I'm going long. If I'm going long, I still want to hang on because, long could be 5, 10, 15 years, right?
Yeah.
Which could be worth it in the long run. But right now, it's really hot.
Okay, amazing. Thank you.
No problem. All righty, PLTR. So this is kind of like a I told you so moment. We can clean this up actually, but it made an inverted head and shoulders. I said that this would go to 100, and then I said the next stop would be 125 after it hits 100, and it looks like my prophecy is coming true. Is that 119.16? I think that 78 RSI is really hot. This MACD, that is a crazy run, but that's what you get with an earnings pop. And then the only reason that I'm thinking that we can squeeze about $6 more out is because of this. We hit 100, we cooled off down to 80, just like I like, and now it pushed back up, is about at 84. So if we go for another 90 to 100 on the stock RSI on the daily, I think that we'll hit my target of about 120. 125. And then after that, I think that it'll be time for PLTR to cool off. The cool off point that I'm watching is about 110. So about right here. So it goes up about $5 or $6 to 120, 125. And then eventually, once it cools down, it pulls down to about 110. We may even see top side of 105. 110 to 105 is the range that I'm looking at. And then it should be moving higher. Again, this thing could go crazy towards the end of the year. We could see 150, 160. But right now, with it being February, the second month of the year, again, I called the 125 right after 100. And I think that's the next point. So if you're looking at getting in this, depending on what the style of trade you want to do, be very, very careful. This thing is hot. It's been hot for a while. Let me move this out the way. It's been hot, and it's been hot for a while. But I do think that that 125 is reachable. And then if we look at this on the 4-hour, we can see a 75 RSI. Again, we know the story behind that. The candles are hot. We know why. The MACD did cross over to the downside barely on the 4-hour, but we still was able to eke out a 1% gain on Friday. And Friday was a really, really slow day as far as volume, especially in the middle and end of the day. The thing I like about the 4 hours that stochastics is low. It came down, it went below 20, and is recovering right back above 20. And like I said earlier, I like when the stochastics breaks that 20 because then we can watch the 50, 80, 100 as future stop points. But yeah, so any questions on PLTR? Great. All right. XOM. So XOM, let's see, who's it? Dejan, you're talking about XOM. You said a strike price 110, expiration February 28th. XOM, it looks like I was looking at this on the 1 hour and then I was moving up because the readings that I was getting on the 4-hour day and the week were kind of contradicting. So I said, okay, cool. Let me move down to the 1 hour. And when I move down to the 1 hour, if I hide this MA ribbon, we can see that this is kind of making a cup and handle. So a cup and handle is a bullish pattern. But the thing about the cup and handle is that if the handle breaks below 50% of the cup, then the pattern is broken, right? And so patterns do have completion rates. Some are higher than others. I want to say that the cup and handle is pretty much up there as far as decent completion rates, but it is sitting right here on support. And I can put the line here for you. Sitting right here on support, we can tell that that's support because we came crashing down here. We bounced at that same price point around 108, came down again, bounced around 108, came down here, chopping around 108. But if we look back in the past, we can see that 108 to 110 seems like a decent range for support. So now that we're down, we're here at 108. What we'll need is to start moving back up. So we can move back up, 109, 110, and start to take out these levels to the upside. We can actually go for a gap fill between 110 and 111. If we can fill this gap, we're back to getting out to the upside for Exxon. Now, if we move over to the 4-hour, this is why I was a little hesitant, is because when I look at the 4-hour, we can see that the RSI is pointing down at 46. So it's cooling off a bit. We turn my MA ribbon back on. We can also see that we have a conjunction of moving averages. So this is a make or break cluster. If we break above this, we could be going all the way up here to 114 on the breakout. And I'll put my next line there. You can see we got a tap here at 114. We got some traffic here at 114. And then we got the 200 MA at 114. So again, if we can get a move, if we can get that cup and handle to get to working for us, we can make it up higher. I would say 110 to 112 would be what I watch. It's already at 108. So if it can budge $2, because this is Exxon, right? It's not going to move like a growth stock, right? So it's going to be moving, $1, $2 a day. And if we can get that to the upside, then we can go for a gap fill. I think if we get that gap fill, we can have some more momentum to take us all the way up to the 200 MA. Once we hit that 200 MA, you know the rule. First tap on 200 MA should be a rejection. After that, we could test to see if we could break and move higher. But yeah, that's what I got for XOM. I don't know if DeJohn's still there out there somewhere, but there you go. In chat, good to own PLTR long term as billionaire oligarchs rob this country blind the next 3-4 years. He said, cool, thanks. Yeah, so yeah, PLTR, they're getting government contracts fed to them by the government, which they're like a government slash, they're like a defense slash AI play in a very unique space. So we'll be seeing PLTR continue to move throughout the year. Again, a good long hold. And then it's also good if you want to, you know, trade some volatility. You want something that has some action. It has some action from time to time. So pretty decent stock to trade. And then you still have to watch out for all of the dues and the politics and things like that that are floating around the country at the time, because then it can impact that stock as well, because again, it is a defense slash AI play. So has strength there, but it also has exposure to bad news there as well. All right, SoFi. A lot of people were asking me last week, what do I think about SoFi? And I said, hey, I am still bullish on it. Let me, which ones do I want to hide? I want to hide the MA ribbon. And so I was telling them that, hey, we have an inverted, actually we have a fallen wedge. Oh, that line is black. That's not going to work. Let me try to do that again. I'm going to make the line. Wait, where's the color? We'll make it white. There we go. All right. So we have a fallen wedge here. Whoa. Oh, that's not perfect. There we go. All right, so we had a fallen wedge here to where PLTR, you can see that it actually respected this trend line topside. So when it finally made its break up, it came down, tested that trend line, bounced off, came down, and then eventually broke. But once it broke and down into this channel, you can see that we had this wick test that top trend line. This next candle, wick test the bottom trend line, and then we're just playing ping pong around in this downward slant. So this is a falling wedge, which means that the stock moves up, falls down at an angle, and then bounces out. And so we can see that Friday was a really nice bounce for the stock, up 6%, almost 7%. At a high point, it did touch the 1650 resistance that I set. It pulled back slightly, but it's looking like we could get a move higher. So this is the day. We're at a 55 RSI pointing up. And get out of the way. We have a pending MACD crossover right here. So pending MACD crossover to the downside to where this blue line is about to cross the red line. Once it crosses over, we should be ready for a pop to the upside. And so we're really close to a MACD crossover to the upside. We're coming out of a falling wedge. RSI is at 55. Stochastics is at 47. I like what I see on SoFi. So SoFi is one that I'm going to be watching. Again, I do own shares of the stock. I'm going to continue to buy the shares. Like I said, I see this stock going for 20, 25 bucks. After the last earnings that they had, a lot of people had questions. Do you still see it going there? My answer still is yes. This happens all the time. It's a new stock, new tech, but it is growing at an insane pace. Again, if you just pay attention to its last earnings, I mean, it beat earnings by 700%, which, I mean, again, nothing to scoff at. 700% beat on earnings is always great for a stock, especially a stock that, or a company that's small, that's trying to get places. Seeing growth numbers like this is always good for SoFi. So, like I said, still bullish on it. It is playing right into our hands out of this falling wedge, like I called. And now we want to see some candles above the 1650. So we get candles above 1650. The next level I'm looking at 1750 to 18 bucks. We get up to 1750 to 18 bucks. I mean, hello, $25, right? Because we'll get what we need from all of this downwards energy. We'll burn all of the people who were selling and all of the puts that were bought to the upside. and eventually people will start to jump on the train and buy it up. So it looks like right now I'm waiting to see, can we actually break it? Can we break this 1650? And you can see why I'm picking 1650 is because this move up here back in November, 1650 was a rejection spot, went up. 1650 was where we hovered around, rejected. 1650 again, and then we finally broke through, and it still acted weird at 1650. So 1650 is the number to beat for this week. After that, I'm ready to play calls moving to the upside. So if I have any questions about SoFi, just let me know. All right. MSTR. All right, so MSTR, if you've been paying attention to crypto, it was running with Bitcoin, Coinbase, Riot Blockchain, all the other crypto darlings. I think that MSTR at this level could be a buy. Honestly, I think that just like I always say for Coinbase, I think both of these are going to be $1,000 stocks, excuse me, in about 2 or 3 years. So looking at the price at 337, I know some people may say, well, it's kind of expensive. You'll look at it in a different manner when it's $1,000. I say the same thing about Coinbase. I think the crypto space is going to become more regulated, and we'll start to see larger inflows into the space. And by then, these stocks will have already taken off. So MSTR right now has just been trading sideways, trying to get some footing. It looks like it want to make a double bottom, which is a W-shaped pattern, down, up, down. If it moves back up, and then we're at a 48, 49 RSI pointing up. If we look at the MACD, we can see that we have a pending MACD crossover to the upside, which is good. And then we also have the stochastics climbing, and it's only at 52 out of 100. So looking at the day, MSTR looks good for dollar cost averaging. I may snatch up some this week. I just need to see what we're going to open like on Tuesday. With it being a short week, it's always weird. If you've been trading a lot, you know that a 4-day week is not going to trade like a 5-day week would, especially coming off a holiday. So we'll see. But I'm watching Bitcoin on this one. But I do like MSTR at this price. I like 337. If I can take it back up to this top line at 441, 440, easy, nice swing to gain $400 per share. So 4 hour, again, it's been traded sideways, so pretty much the same thing. And then if we look at the week, we have a 57 RSI on the week. We also have this making a giant bull flag. So went up, flagging down again. I mean, if you want to talk about falling wedges, it wedged his way down to the 20 MA. Again, that 20 MA is making a nice spread. It is 20, 50, 100, 200. And then you can see as soon as we came down and touched it on that red candle, boom, we got a green candle. So the level that it needs to break right now should be 360, 359, 360 areas where we need to break. If we can break that next level 400, after 400, we should be looking at 440. So I like it on the week, but looking at this on the week and seeing something that I like just means that I need to wait. And then if I'm looking at shares, I need to just go ahead and grab up shares and just patiently wait for the move back up. So MSTR is one that is on my watch list, and it is one that I'm looking at snatching up some shares for. Any questions? Check the chat. Cool. If you have a second, can you look at bonds TNX? Let me see. TNX. It is consolidating on the week. Oh, pending MACD crossover to the downside, double top on the stochastics, which means that we could see some more movement to the downside. Yeah, that 20 crosses that 50. This is coming down to about 4.3. Let me see, what is this? The MAC up, and it rejected this MACD crossover. So it had a MACD crossover that would have popped it to the upside, but it literally went up, got close to it, and then just gave up and went down. We also had the stochastics, the momentum pointing down as well. So we could be seeing a cool off and a pullback. Let me check. Yeah, on the 4 hour. So all 4, I said 4, all 3 of these are signaling Yeah, a potential pullback. And it was already pulling back. Looks like what, Friday. So that's what I'm seeing for TNX. All righty. All right. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pass it back over to Mark. Again, for those that were late or wasn't paying attention, this will be the last time we do a format like this. Again, next Sunday, what we'll be doing is going for more information filled, more interactive session. We'll be chopping it down from 2 hours. So you don't have to be bored by us. I'm kidding. You don't have to sit for 2 hours to get everything you need. We are moving so just like we did earlier in the session where we had you basically give us the tickers, we charted out, we were moving that into the Discord. So if you still need things charted, we recommend joining the Discord. We do have a free plan, a paid plan. Again, I would toot the paid plan is the better deal in my opinion, but join for free, check it out. I still think, again, the paid, you get way more, you get to see more, you even get additional sessions. But yeah, so this will be the last time. Again, charting is going to be moved into the Discord, and I'm also going to be live charting and trading Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And with that being said, Mark, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you for the pattern of the week.
Appreciate that, Ladarius. And to also add on to what Ladarius just said, I'm going to be opening up a new account. So me and my girlfriend and I, we have a savings, and it's just been sitting there. So we're going to allocate some of that money and create a little co-op brokerage account. So I will be trading that. I'm not sure how I'm going to trade it. I still haven't decided if I want to do day trading or if I wanted to actually be buying and holding shares. So, but I'll be doing all that in the Discord once the account has been completed, and they're just waiting for the funds to go into the account at this point. So once the funds are settled, I'll be in the Discord trading that as well live. So if you got any questions, you can always pop in and ask me then. Pattern of the week for this week. On the last week, we talked about the hammer and the shooting star. The week before that, we did the falling wedge. This week, we're going to talk about the rising wedge stock pattern. So let me always forget how to do this. There we go. Yep. All right. So the rising wedge. What is the rising wedge used for? So this is basically this pattern is just going to let you know that this stock is about to become bearish, so it's about to start to trend downwards. So it's used to predict the next trend in the market, and again, it's going to let you know that the stock price is going to be bearish. Now, when this pattern forms, if you notice, you'll be able to draw your support and resistance won't be a horizontal line, right? They're going to be vertical, or they're going to, be diagonal. So your support and resistance lines are going to be diagonal. And then within that, you'll see that the price will touch those points about 3 or more times. And then once it breaks out, you'll start to see it go down. And again, I'm going to show you how you can see this happening. But yeah, that's the basics. You'll have a diagonal support, diagonal resistance. And once the stock price breaks beneath your diagonal support, you'll start to see that the price is going to continue to trend downwards in a downwards direction. So this is good to use if you were in a trade. Let's just say you bought in at the bottom here at this $756 range. Stock price started going up. It got all the way up to 788, and you're like, I don't know if I should get in or not. Well, if you can see that this pattern is forming, this will justify and let you know, hey, you should probably go ahead and get out this stock because it's about to start to trend downwards. So it's a good way to let you know, hey, this is a good point to get out. It's also good if you want to do options, you can play puts on it. And with the put options, you can use each one of these points, and I'll show you the points and speak on it more in future slides. But you can use each one of these points or each one of the points for the tests as your target prices. And again, I'll talk about that more in the next few slides. All right, and then let me go to the bottom. All right, so when you're charting out patterns or when you're trading, it's always good to have rules that you follow before you get into a trade. When I first started off, I had a notebook where I used to write different rules for patterns and just rules in general. Right before I get into a trade, I wanted to make sure that I checked off all of these things before I actually got into the trade. Why would you do that? Well, doing that kind of it takes away all of the emotions you may have into the trade. So it'll help you form a more educated decision, and it'll help you increase your profits as well. When I wasn't using one, I was finding that I was having less success. But once I implemented a checklist, I was finding more success. And then that checklist is not going to be the same for everyone. It just depends on your trading style, depends on your risk management and your risk tolerance that you have. So everyone's checklist is going to be different, but it's always good to create a checklist for yourself. And then, especially when you're new, just always make sure everything is checked off before you get into a trade, just so that you can increase your chances. And with this pattern, any pattern that I have, I always have a checklist for it as well. And with this pattern, the rules that I like to follow is the first thing is the stock price needs to be in a prior trend. So the prior trend needs to be for the rising wedge, it needs to be going up in value. So the stock price needs to be going up first before the pattern even forms. And then once the pattern forms, you need to draw those diagonal resistance lines, diagonal support lines. And after that, it'll form a cone shape. And then at that point, you're just waiting for a breakout to the downside. Once you see the breakout happen on the support, I put resistance break, but it was support break. Once you see that breakout on the support level, you can then go ahead and start to get into those put options, or you can go ahead and sell and get out that stock completely. All right, so let's go back up to the top and see the example of these checklist items. All right, so the first rule, stock price needs to be in the uptrend. So you can see here I drew a horizontal line at the bottom and the top. So we can see the previous price was $30, and we can say that the current price is $57. So that is signifying that this is a uptrend in the price, right? So because the price went from a low of 30 to a high of 57. So the stock is going up in value. It's in an uptrend. Next, once you have your uptrend, I like to draw this little trend line. Just helps me determine what type of pattern is forming, and from how it looks like it's forming a falling wedge. But we still need to verify if it is a falling wedge or not, right? So the next thing on the rule list is diagonal resistance lines. So what you'll do is you'll draw, because the stock price is moving how it's moving, you can draw a horizontal line, but it's easier to just draw this diagonal line here. And with this diagonal line, you want the stock price to touch it at least 3 or more times. And each time it touches this area, the current touch needs to be higher than the previous one. So we have stock price going up. It tested this level at about, we'll say at about $42.50, went down, came up, tested this level again. That next test was at $47.50, which is higher than $42. And then it went down, came up, tested this level again. That next level was at about $57.50, which is higher than $47.50. So these touches are all increasing in value. So that checks off as well. So now we have the diagonal resistance line. Let's draw the diagonal support. So same rules applied to the diagonal support, except it's going to be at the bottom, right? So stock price, you draw diagonal resistance or diagonal support, and each touch needs to be higher than the previous one. So we have this first touch at $35.34. The second touch, which is at about, we'll say $40. Third touch, which is sitting at about $47.50. So each one of these touches were higher than the previous one. So that checks off. And it was 3. It could be more than 3. With the rising wedge pattern, the support, you can have 2 touches on the support, and that's fine. And vice versa. If it was the falling wedge, you can have 2 touches on the resistance, and that's fine. But because this is the falling support, because this is the rising wedge, 2 or more touches on the support line would be good enough for you. All right. And then once you put those 2 together, I mean, it's not the cleanest cone. I didn't draw it the cleanest, but it'll create this cone-like shape. And all you're doing, it's not going to always create the cone shape. I'll put that out there for the falling wedge. Ideally, you will want this cone shape to happen because it's going to let you know once it breaks out that cone shape, get ready for that breakdown, that breakout to the downside. Now, again, I spoke on, when you see this happen, or if you're in the trade already, this just let you know you should get out. But if you're looking to play options, you can use from the diagonal support lines, you can use these touches as your target prices. So you can say, okay, when it breaks out, once it breaks beneath it, I can go ahead and do a strike price at about $47.50. That'll be your first target price. And once that one's done, you can get into another play and say, okay, my next target price will be at about $40. And then once it tests that, you can wait for it to break back beneath 40. And then you can say, finally, my last place that is going to go and test is probably about $35.34. Doing your trades like this and breaking it down, it just, for one, it just helps you make profit throughout the whole time, and you don't have to wait for this last test to happen for you to make profit. This is just you solidifying that you're about to make profit each time it's testing these levels, instead of just waiting and hoping that it gets here. You're doing this step by step, which is better than me and more safer. All right. So this is how the outcome will look once the cone shape breaks out. Again, you may have a retest, but ultimately you can see stock price once it broke out that it continued to go down. It got all the way back down to the bottom. Me personally, I wouldn't have waited all the way to right here to have gotten out if I was going to get into just one trade. Once it tested this level here at this 50-day moving average or 50-week moving average, I probably would have gotten out just looking at the indicators that I have on the screen. Again, this was a while back, and I wasn't using like the stochastic RSI and multiple moving averages. But now with all of the indicators I'm using now, I would just look at all those indicators to justify if I should stay in or not. But yeah, that's how you would trade. And again, you would do the same thing once it breaks out and you want to find your first entry point. Look at all of your other indicators. Don't just look at the pattern itself and say, is doing this, this is what's going to happen. You want to use all of your indicators, because using all of the indicators shows you the bigger picture and it tells the bigger story. So when this is breaking out, we're looking at the RSI, what the RSI is doing. Well, we can see it's pointing downwards, and it is just inside of our sweet zone of 45.55, and it's pointing downwards. So that's telling us, hey, we potentially have room to the downside that we can continue to go. All right. You look at the MACD. At this point, what the MACD is doing. The MACD just crossed over a few candlesticks ago. So we know the buying pressure, which is my black line, is under my selling pressure. We know that's bearish. That should cause us to go down. So that's another indicator. We can see the moving average is relatively far. So we know we have room to go down. And again, at this point, we wasn't using all of those indicators, but I would look at my stochastic, my VRVP, and my other moving averages as well. Any questions? All right, perfect. Last thing. So if you wanted to find anything about investing, I always tell people to go to investopedia.com. If you want to learn a new pattern, just type in the pattern you wanted to learn, and there's 9 times out of 10 going to be an article for you to read. Those articles are always informative, and they're very detailed. They'll let you know who created it, the success rate. They even give you tips of trading it. So definitely check out Investopedia. If you have any questions on any investing questions you may have, you can definitely check out Investopedia, the best place to go buy for. So if I don't have any questions, I'll go ahead and pass it out to Ladare so he can close us out. I appreciate y'all.
All right, Mark, thank you. All righty. So let me stop the YouTube before I forget. Boom. All right. So again, thank you for everyone for joining. Again, the link to join the Discord is